Welcome to the Prof Broker podcast. On this episode today, our guest is Daragh Gilmartin. He is one of my team members and an absolute freak in terms of hard work, which is why I wanted to have him on the show today. Just to remind you guys, the purpose of this podcast is for anyone that think about starting a career, that wants to become an entrepreneur or has big dreams and big ambitions, but don't really know where to start and what does it take to become successful. The purpose of this podcast is to make sure that I interview people and understand a little bit more about their mindset and what made them successful in the long run. So Daragh, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jeremie. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for being here. For those who don't know you, who are you?
Good question. So firstly, I don't think I can speak to people about how to be ultimately very successful because I'm very early on in my career. But I have found some success in the short run, and I think I'm on the path towards that. So I think everyone in the office can see that. So yes, my name is Daragh Gilmartin. I'm a 25-year-old real estate agent in Dubai, focusing on the off-plan and investment sector. I am from Dunboyne, County Meath in Ireland, proudly, and I moved to Dubai just over a year and a half ago at this stage. So yeah, I started off in leasing, moved to off-plan, and here we are.
Okay, and out of curiosity, what made you realize I have to leave Ireland? I think it's the first time you were moving to Dubai, if I'm correct, but what made you decide, okay, that's it, I'm moving to Dubai?
Great question. So I always kind of knew when I was younger that I wanted to leave Ireland. So to give you some context, I grew up for a couple of years in USA when I was a kid. For 1 year or 3 years when I was really young, and then 1 year when I was a little bit older. And I always had the plans and visions to go there because that's where the massive opportunity in the world is. And yeah, I mean, I studied in Ireland, went to university, and I studied economics and finance in University College Dublin. Once I graduated, the traditional financial route wasn't for me, but I knew I wanted to be entrepreneurial and get out there and make some money. So the best kind of move on the chessboard, so to speak, was to go and join the fastest growing startup at the time in Ireland, because I had no connections elsewhere in the world. And I joined that company with a great mentor called Charlie Gleason, and I learned a lot from him being in that business. And after 9 months, we got acquired. So at that point, with the new company, I was kind of junior. I was working very closely with the CEO in the first company, but in the second company, because I was junior, I was moved down a little bit. And I was just looking for new opportunities. Like anywhere in the world, I had explored the US, Canada, and a funny story is one of my good friends who you know, Josh McCluskey, came home to Ireland for Paddy's Day, I think 2023 it would have been. And he was living here at the time as a real estate agent. And he mentioned how much money he was making, and it just got me excited. I'd never heard of Dubai before that. And
Never.
You'd heard of it, but I'd never explored what even is it. I couldn't point it out on the map. I didn't really know anything about it. And then after that, I started to learn about it. I kind of began to notice, and it became clear in my mind, the issues surrounding Ireland, which I think you were alluding to. Like Ireland, like the rest of Europe and a lot of the Western world, is kind of on a downward trajectory right now in so many different ways. So like politically, it's a mess. Socially, it's a mess. Economically, there's a housing crisis. There's homeless everywhere. And I think the main thing is the spirit in Ireland. Like it's lost that kind of ambitious nature. If you're really outspoken and want to make something for yourself and you're hungry, a little bit, you're kind of, there's a negative look towards you. I wouldn't say that's the main thing. I think it's just, you just can't find other people like that, to be honest. And immediately upon moving over here, you come into an office and you bump into like 20, 30 guys who are all just, I have 6 months of savings. We're here to work as hard as possible and try and make it for yourselves. And that's just like such an inspiring atmosphere to be in. And yes, so I'm very glad I've made the move.
You've always wanted to have more, understand more, do better since a young age, from what I just heard. So when that Josh arrived and told you he was doing what he's doing in Dubai, what happened in your brain? What made you decide, I'm going to do that as well? Because it's a big leap of faith. You've never been to that place before, and you're just deciding to start everything over when you've already worked in another path. So what made you just take everything and go?
Great question. So when he came home, he showed us a bank statement of the money he made in 1 month.
Okay.
And it was more than I made in an entire year.
What did it do to your brain?
I was like, what the fuck is going on over in Dubai? Like, honestly, like, and you don't think that type of money is possible at such a young age. Like, because I was very good in school, and throughout like the system, I performed very well and I was rewarded for it. I got very good grades, went to the best university, and part of my process of choosing a university degree, I Googled what are the highest paying jobs. And you see these 100K per year salaries, whatever, engineers, software engineers, maybe finance. And then you just hear of someone who, you know, doesn't have a degree, just came out and is making like triple on like an annual scale what those guys make. It's just insane. And that completely like blew up my mind into like the possibilities of earning way beyond those like high paying salary careers, so to speak.
Don't you think that tells us a lot about the school, the education system?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, fuck it. It's shit.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible. That's what we see not on an everyday basis, but many people have made it in life very successfully. They didn't have the biggest amount of studies. They haven't had so many years of studying hard. They've just got an obsession with being ambitious, wanting to have something better, to live a better life, and they've just made it happen. I feel like, I don't know what you think about it, but I feel like we're being taught to stay in the average, to just consume and to just be the good average Joe and not really asking many questions about how things really work. But when you start to really understand what's behind the curtain, then it's a big shock.
Absolutely, yeah. And like without going into a massive rabbit hole of like why the education system was set up in the first place, and it is to create a funnel of working class people, and it does have its merits as well. Like you interact with other people your age, and I mean you can learn a lot as well through schooling. But even now, if you follow a lot of successful people now, even like Grant Cardone, for example, he's homeschooling his children. A lot of rich people will homeschool their children. If not entirely, they go to school, and when they come back, they go, yeah, this is bullshit, this is kind of cool, and they teach them the mentality. So I think a lot more people will wake up to that idea of, even if we're sending our kids to school, we need to take them home and teach them the values and principles of our family and how to actually create wealth and success. 100%.
Would you do that?
Yeah, probably, yeah. I mean, I've danced with the idea of completely homeschooling children, which I would love to do. But at a certain point, I might have like a business empire that you kind of need to run as well. So, I mean, ideally in a perfect scenario, I would love to be in a community of maybe like 50 at the maximum end families who all have strong masculine leaders in the family, tight-knit families, and they all homeschool together, but within a community that are all aligned on values. Because at the moment you send your kid to a public school in Ireland or in France, where you're from, wherever, you don't know what the values of the parents in each household that you're sending it to. And, you know, for better or worse, religion has been removed from schools, probably for better in a lot of regards. But, you know, you want to send your kids and to be learning with other people that you know want the best for your kids and are all on the same path. So potentially you might see Daragh Gilmartin School in the future.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's all about giving the right mindset to your kids, having the right mindsets. And what do you think gave you that mindset? Were you born with it? Is it something you always wanted to have? You always thought, okay, I will be very successful, I will have that freaking big empire and I will make tons of money. Like, what's the maybe deeper reason? First question is, do you think the mindset is the most important thing? And second question, what is the reason why you have this mindset today? Because this is why you're very famous here in our agency, and also you're a good friend of mine, so I can see that very much. You have an incredible mindset. Not many people that I've seen in my life have this drive to make it happen, to make it work. And I'm going to have as many amazing people sat where you are right now, and I want them to explain to people, to our auditors, how did it come? How did they become these driven people that really wanted to?
Great question. So to answer the first part of the question is mindset everything? And I truly believe it is. So the example we're using with school, I think if you instill the right mindset in your kids, you can send them to public school and they can learn whatever. And then when they come back, you teach them the right way to decongest everything and learn the proper way. So mindset is 100% everything. The way I have gotten this mindset, I ponder this question a lot myself, and I haven't come from like a dire situation, which a lot of people do come from. People grow up poor in single family homes in war-stricken countries, and they build this deep desire to make sure their kids never have to go through that, or to prove their parents right or anything like that. I didn't have any of that. So I actually grew up in a pretty comfortable home. My whole life has been fairly comfortable. Two parents in love with each other, and yeah, stay-at-home mom for a lot of the time. So it was quite good, to be fair. So I do ponder this a lot, and I think from a very early age, I've always had a great imagination.
Okay, interesting.
Which I think is a huge point. When we talk about visualization and manifestation and how mindset is everything, from a really young age, I've had a very good imagination and like very vivid and lucid dreams as well. And once you understand this, like if I were to ask you or to ask anyone, what would you rather in life? Have the good thing or the bad thing? You would pick the good, obviously, yeah? A Ferrari or a Nissan Sunny? Ferrari. Yeah. So if you could just magically choose in your mind, which one would you want? You would choose the good thing. The only thing in the real world that stops you from that is hard work and dedication and success. And I'm not afraid of doing any of that work. I want all the best things. I have dreams in my mind that I want all of those things, and I pick them apart. And from a very early age, I don't know why, I think I'm lucky because like I said, I kind of stumbled onto this, but I was always really intrigued with obsessive characters. So like from an early age, I loved Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant as well. I would like watch all their interviews, and then Conor McGregor as well. And obviously you don't take everything from these characters, but when they have such obsessive qualities and they speak with such conviction about what they're doing, why they're doing it, and they're just narrowly focused on achieving one thing and not getting distracted, it hypes me the fuck up and I get inspired. So I'm still pondering that question, but I think it's probably in everyone's best interest to cultivate it in some way, 100%.
I heard you talking about distraction. I think distraction is a big subject in our society today. There's distractions everywhere. What do you think about them? Do you think there could be the reason why so many people are really struggling to being successful?
Absolutely, 100%. And yeah, like a lot of people are fucked these days. Like they might have no hope because I don't consume too much like TikTok, Instagram Reels. I can get hooked. I'm not perfect, but these people who they can't focus on certain things for a half an hour at a time. Like they can't sit down for 2 hours and make phone calls and dedicate themselves to making phone calls. They're up, they might get a coffee or a smoke or toilet. How are you going to focus for a year to 5 years when it's like shit for 2 years? How are you going to stay focused and not get distracted by all those things? So absolutely, I think it's paramount is your focus and your ability to actually dedicate yourself to one task. And there's so many learnings you can get from other different things. Like in the gym, you go to the gym for so long and you see zero results. How can you stay focused for all that time? It's difficult. So yeah, 100%, one of the key indicators of success.
So to fight off distractions, maybe you need goals. What do you think is the solution for someone who's always being distracted today? What's the first step for that person? What can he do to focus a little bit more, to understand how to get out of this race?
Mm-hmm. So ultimately, you want to find a flow state, I think is a big thing also in my life. So, I mean, meditation can help. I suppose I've done a little bit. I'm not a Buddhist monk by any means.
Do you meditate?
I don't have a consistent meditation routine that I will do. I have dabbled in different forms of meditation as well. And I think that's important to show yourself that you at least can do it. Some people say, oh, I couldn't sit in my room alone for half an hour. Like, that would scare me to know that I couldn't do it. Like, I know that I can do it and I don't consistently do it. But yeah, I think, and if you can't do meditation, often people say sport is meditation in moment. Try to do a sport, whatever it is, football, hurling, boxing, kickboxing.
Kickboxing, yeah.
100%.
I think you're doing kickboxing
a little bit, yeah. I'm trying to open up the hips, yeah.
So how does that help you think in your journey? Do you think kickboxing, and I know you're a big fan of fight sports, do you think that has, do you think that helps a little bit in your journey towards success?
Absolutely, massively.
Where? What?
Massively.
Why do you?
So I'm not an expert by any means in boxing or anything, but I've been boxing 3 years. I've had 2 fights. I've won both of them, 2-0. Just to put that in there. But yeah, I started 3 years ago, and like I was relatively successful like in school and college before I started. But once you start getting punched in the face and it like actually really hurts, and like bigger people beating you up, once you push through that, and like boxing is so technical that no one can actually speak words to you to get you through those first couple of months. You have to just be in there and suffer and take the punches. Once you can learn to go through all that pain, and you actually realize you learn the most when you get punched in the face the hardest. If you're in a little scruffle and you back out too softly and you don't have your guard up and you get stung in the nose, this happened to me, got smacked, and you're like, okay, so next time I'll come out with my hands up. But that's what really takes a lesson to be learned. I think, unfortunately, everyone has to learn the hard way. So I think there's a huge mindset shift, especially like in combat sports, is like when you physically get hurt, you learn a lot. So when you're in this job of real estate, when you lose out on a big deal, yes, it stings in the short term, but you know, hey, if I can find these 1% to 2% that I can improve on, I'm going to become massively more successful. So absolutely, I would recommend to anyone to go get punched in the face, and it might make you more successful.
So circling back on the real estate, it's been now more than a year, more than a year and a half.
A year and a half, yeah.
And you've been an off-plan specialist for the last 10 months now?
Roughly, yeah. Since 10 months.
So you're in the top dogs at the agency, in the new joiners, and just let us know a little bit, how has this journey been so far? Maybe explain to us, what were you probably imagining would happen 10 months later, and what really happened 10 months later? What did you picture in your mind, everything that would happen this year, or how did it go?
That's a great question. So I always knew I was going to become successful, and we've spoken about this, obviously we're good friends, Jeremie, outside of this podcast, and I've spoken about my mentality coming into this is high risk, high reward. I don't really mind if I like fuck up and go broke, because I will move to Thailand, as I've told you. I will do kickboxing and be on the beach and party, and it will be fun. So I really don't care if I lose, and I think that's given me such an edge to take massive risk. So I moved into off-plan from leasing without a lot of savings, and I came in 6 months without making any money, not knowing if it was going to work out. So I actually don't go into things with, you have certain goals, but I don't hang anything on them. I don't know if they're going to happen. I'm going to work as hard as possible and stay perceptive and learn every day, ask the right questions. And if at the end of the year I'm very successful, that's great. If not, I know I put in the work that I want to put in and that I'm willing to put in. And I've worked myself harder than I ever thought I could work myself over those years.
Have you, yes? You
absolutely.
Feel like it?
Yeah.
And
100%. So when I first came here, I said, because you come maybe with like 3 to 6 months worth of savings. You come with the mentality, I'm going to sprint and see what happens. Like, work as hard as possible. So you're working, whatever, you come in at 8:30, you try stay till 8, and you work for the entire day. And this doesn't work for everyone, but this is what I did. I didn't eat lunch somewhere else. I ate lunch at the desk. You go home, you're tired, you fall asleep, and you come back. So I sprinted for such a long period, where after about 6 months, I actually realized that I had a new level, and that sprinting consistently, I could actually kind of do and keep it up for a long time, which I surprised myself with the level of work rate that I could put in.
So you thought you would be able to do a certain amount of work, and then you've realized after doing it way more than you thought you would be able to, that you could keep going on the long run.
100%, yeah.
So what do you think is the biggest lesson in that case that you've learned about yourself this year? Because everyone is saying that, real estate in particular, but in any entrepreneurial
Great question. No, I know what you're asking. I think people greatly underestimate themselves.
Okay.
Like massively. Like people call me cocky. Like I fucking love myself, and I think I'm like the best, and I think I'm going to do great things. And I massively underappreciate actually how much I could get done, like work. So I think everyone massively underestimates how much they can do, because I think I'm great and I say this, but I actually don't think I'm special. I think everyone has it within themselves. If they apply themselves, I think they can genuinely shock themselves. But it takes, as we said, like a good 6 months of staying focused, and then you will surprise yourself. So I would say that's the main thing.
Why do you think everybody's underestimating themselves? What's the reason in your brain?
Well, I think it goes back to the same thing. It's a lack of focus. It's a lack of purpose. They're lost. They're anxious. They're watching too much TikTok and Netflix, and they're not actually thinking about what they want to do.
So not setting goals probably is the reason why people are underestimating themselves.
Not setting goals, not being awake. Like I think, like most people are half asleep. Like, to be honest, like
What do you mean?
most people in today's world are half asleep. Like,
Yeah, I heard you saying this a couple of times. Tell us more about it.
Like they all watch the same Netflix, and this is not to hate on anyone. And I am not a robot. To the camera, I'm not a robot, and I don't look down on anyone at all. I actually want the best for everyone, and I want people to actually take control of their lives. But most people, they don't think about their long-term goals. They're not thinking about tomorrow. Like they're thinking about what show they're going to watch. When's the F1 on? When's the Premier League on? When's everything else in everyone else's life, and not actually themselves. So I think they're like a dimly lit light. You know, when the lights, it's not a switch, you can like dim it.
Maybe it's fear. Because when we think about it, it takes a lot of courage to do the things that you're doing right now, the things that we're doing. Any person that is starting a business today, you're literally putting everything that you have into this
100%.
Into this
But
new-
what I would say to that is like I get fearful of not doing those things.
Choose your heart.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What if you don't do those things? In 20 years' time, the inflation goes through the roof, and you can't pay for your family or your rent or your bills. That scares me. Like so. I think they're choosing their wrong fear there. They're fearing the moment to maybe get rejected or put themselves out there, like I've done on social media, like you're doing now. I mean, you can sit at home and be fearful now, and take your salary, but maybe in 4 years you won't be able to afford to feed your family.
So what's the first step?
That scares me, mate.
I'm a 20-year-old guy who has spent a lot of time on Netflix, playing video games, and now I realize it's time to wake up. What's my first step? What do I do?
Well, how did you wake up?
If I put myself in someone's shoes, as you're saying, half asleep my whole life, comes an age, maybe 20, 25 years old, it's mostly around this age that you realize you need to do something with your life. Mm-hmm. When someone is finally waking up and realizing, okay, the world is moving and I'm not, what do I do? What's the first step? What would you advise people to do?
So I hate this question because people know what the first step is. So I mean, broadly speaking, I mean, surround yourself with the right people. I mean, get in shape and focus and try and make some money. But like, people know exactly what they're supposed to do. They fight against their own minds every single day. So what's the first step to becoming successful? I don't know. Start reading some books.
Okay.
Go to networking events. I mean, I didn't do that, but like watch podcasts, go apply for a sales job, like do something. Our manager has a great saying, emotion creates emotion. Do stuff, and then come to more experienced people with technical questions rather than how do I get started? When I said in boxing, there's like the first 6 months, you don't know what you're doing. And I think I've told you this off camera before. When I was there like 3 months, a new guy came. And on the first day, he was like, coach, tell me, what do I need to improve on? And he was like, bro, you are so early in the game and so lost. No technical piece of advice will actually help you right now. You need to go in and get punched in the face a bunch before I can actually start telling you some real advice. So what I would say is, if people genuinely want to take action, you know exactly which is the next step that you need to do, and just action. Speak to the right people, and
do you know what I
you'll
think?
figure it out.
I think most people, and maybe us included, there's always a moment when you realize you've been in a certain comfort zone for a while, and it's really hard to leave that comfort zone. You don't even realize that you're in it. But many things have been very comfortable for a while, and then you didn't really think about doing anything about it, and now you're stuck, you're trapped. So when I say, what's the first step? Maybe one of the first things that people can realize is, what am I doing with my life right now? Am I exactly where I want to be? What's happening? They need to have a helicopter view and to understand, okay, is this what I really wanted to do with my life? Because as of now, I'm not moving. I'm doing an average job, being around people that are not really helping me grow. So I think you're really right when you say, surround yourself with the right people. It's a common say, but it's so important. If tomorrow you get surrounded with 5, 6 people that only play video games the whole day, and you live with these people, if I come back 1 year later, you're probably going to be sat on the couch playing video games.
Pretty fucking good at video games, yeah.
Now, if these 5 or 6 people are all business owners or investors, most likely you will become one of them, or at least be on a social level that's more like them, right? So surrounding yourself with the right people is super, super important. You also said...
And also cutting out people as well, like, is probably more applicable advice to the people who are just getting started on their journey. And it's not to be mean or rude to friends. You don't have to tell them, no, I'm never going to see you again. You can see them and have a beer and have a joke with them. But that's probably more applicable to the people just starting out, because they can't go and just surround themselves with, billionaires. Billionaires don't want to speak to them, or even multi-millionaires. So you might have to do a lot of your journey on your own, which is just the reality of it. So I would say that's, probably cut some people out and then find one, grab them, keep them close.
Yeah, you arrived in Dubai, you had absolutely no network.
Yes, correct.
So
I had my friend, but not much of a network.
Okay. In that case, how is it today? Do you now have a network? It's been more than 1.5 years. How is the situation on that? Do you have more people with you now? Have you managed to enter some networks? Have you managed to get around some people? What's the journey like right now?
Yeah, not as many as I'd like, because when you're first in your real estate journey, you rely a lot on phone calls and just staying in the office a lot and not actually going out, because that's where you will close your first deals and make your first money. So I have a certain network of people that I have done deals with, and through various, like the boxing fight I did in different organizations, different sports I've done with golf, and then friends of friends, it's starting to build a network. But yeah, that's definitely probably one of my biggest goals for next year, is to develop that further.
Okay. Failure. You have failed many, many times this year, and you have won many, many battles as well. What do you think about failure in general? The reason I'm asking that is, I think most people, and I used to be like this as well, are really scared of failure. And that fear of failing can really prevent you from doing great things. Can you tell us what you think about failure? Because I think your point of view on this is very interesting. A lot. I think most reasons why people are not moving really fast in their life and they're not really doing the things that they want to do is because they're afraid of failing. And we've been educated in a system that doesn't really want you to fail. You know, when you do a test at school, you want to have the highest grade possible. You don't want to fail anything because it's shame and because you don't know how you're going to overcome that feeling, and it's feeling very frustrating. So in the business world, everyone is preaching fail as many times as possible.
Absolutely.
What's your take on that?
Absolutely agree. Yeah, fail. It's the only way you can learn. So like I almost don't like this question again, because it's coming from that perspective of, oh yeah, but I'm afraid of failure. It's like, you must be living under a fucking rock to not know from all the successful people that we have online right now speaking about their journeys that it takes huge amounts of failure, not just once, over and over and over to become successful.
Get punched in the face.
Get punched in the face, 100%.
So you think that you failed a lot this year?
Absolutely, yes.
Is there one in particular that you can remember that made you grow and made you evolve a lot? Can you think of one? I put you on the spot, but there's probably one that you might remember if it was a big one.
Absolutely, yeah. So when I first moved into Off-Plan, I came from leasing with a client who I'd built a very good relationship with. I had met his family. I've been to their family home, met their dog, and he had a big portfolio in here. And because we built such a good relationship, he wanted to buy Off-Plan through me. Part of the reason why I made the move to Off-Plan was to help facilitate that transaction. So it's a long story with different versions and ways of looking at it. But to cut a long story short, he bought directly through Emar to get a massive villa. And then on another one, he had the check ready in the sales center to pay. I unfortunately couldn't be there. I was with a different client. I had a different sales center. So I lost out on 2 villa deals in the space of a weekend. So that's when I had first moved over, and you're looking at maybe 4 or 5 months at this stage without making any money and losing like 73,000 euro in your pocket just like that.
Could you have done it differently? If today you were facing the same situation?
Absolutely. And that's immediately, before you go on to that, that's immediately where my mindset went to. Mokhtar, our boss, I said, I was surprised about your mindset. But immediately when it happened, I knew 90% was other people to blame. The developers at the sales centers not being able to give us the unit that we wanted, or just not being able to take a check out of someone's hand, like very fundamental, easy stuff. But I immediately went to blaming myself and what I could improve. So to get very technical, like we had tried to book the unit with a credit card payment link, which expired. If I was in my position now, I would have known to immediately go to bank transfer. Let's not do that. Let's not wait till it to expire. Let's be on them. They wanted the unit, and then they went to the sales center on their own with a check. I had to be with a different client. I would have got my senior colleague to go with them to make sure everything's all right. Yes, the customer experience in the sales center is bad. So although it was 95% someone else's fault, there's 3 or 4 things that I can improve on, and that's what you should focus on improving. So,
okay, understood.
Why you can just let it pass you and complain? Like, why not take those 3 or 4 learnings? They're literally there sitting for you.
So you're either going to be a victim and think that the world is against you on this one,
exactly,
or you understand what you could have done better, even if it's just 1 or 2% different, to not have this situation again. So it's in the moments when you really fail that you have this opportunity to grow. It's not just failing that's going to make you grow. It's how you react to that failure.
Absolutely, yeah. Because people can shrink up.
Absolutely, yes.
People can fail and shrink up and get scared and, oh, this is a big bad world. Why did this happen to me? And let me go talk to my 4 friends who will also say, yeah, the salesperson, they're terrible.
Comforting yourself.
Exactly, yes. Yeah. But yeah, look within, get those free learnings and move on to the next one.
And when you think back on your journey so far, first of all, do you see yourself in real estate for a long time?
I see myself in real estate for the rest of my life, yeah, 100%.
For the rest of your life. Okay. What do you think you love in this job? What really makes you excited aside from the
cash?
Yes, I know you're a cash lover, but aside from the money that you can make, is there something in this job in particular that really motivates you to say, I'm going to be in it for the rest of my life?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a sport. Like, this is, I think someone online always says this, it's high performance sales. Like, we are basically operating as professional sports people. So I was obviously massive into sport growing up, and unfortunately, hurling, which is my game in Ireland, you may not know about, there's no professional scene in that, so you can't make money in it. But I would have loved always as a kid to be a professional sports person, to like fully dedicate yourself to something. Which when people work a 9 to 5, they kind of half like their job. It's kind of in the field they're interested in, but when they clock out, they'll go watch the sports, the Premier League or whatever, and do something that they're more interested in. So in sales and in real estate, I have like fallen in love with the whole game of it. Meeting people, becoming a more confident person, speaking, doing negotiation. You're learning about one of the oldest and probably largest asset class in the world. There's a lot of interesting people to meet, and it's a sport. We turn up every day and we perform for 9, 10 hours, 11, 12 maybe if you're crazy. And yeah, I mean, it's something that you completely dedicate yourself to. So it's fun.
Would that market still be here in 20, 30, 40 years? Or do you think you would have to move to another real estate market? Because right now we live in Dubai. There's many, many people talking about the fact this market might be too volatile. Many people don't believe in it. We're still in the early adapters phase, as someone would say. What's your take on the Dubai real estate market? Do you think that we're here for the ride? To the moon?
To the moon.
Like Bitcoin?
100%. Absolutely.
So why do you think, you've only had like a year and a half of experience. This market is a pretty young market. It started in 2002. Why do you think that market is booming and is going to go to the moon?
Great question. So it has positioned itself very smartly on like the world map of just benefiting off all of the mistakes from the rest of the world. So as we had spoken briefly earlier about in Ireland and the Western world, in Europe, France is the same, is that all of these societies are on a downward trajectory and they're just messing up with policies, too much regulation, high taxes, crime, there's no safety for your children. So the UAE has come along with strong vision and leadership. It's run by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed, one family. So the politics don't change every 4 years or every 8 years, whatever it is in your own country. So they can stick to a vision for that such a long period of time. And they're just setting up the infrastructure for every industry to win. So they found gold in 1960s and they utilized that to build the foundations of a city. Now the oil and gas industry is less than 5% of the GDP. And
interesting, because people think that this whole UAE has been made thanks to oil, and they think it's an excuse to say, oh, they got their money through oil.
And oil's going to run out. Exactly, yeah.
Exactly. But we realize it's really not. Oil
Absolutely
is a very
not,
small part of the whole economy. They've been very, very smart, and they have the best consulting teams as well that just lead them to have the best vision ever. It's true. This United Arab Emirates, they've been leaders for 20 years right now. It's been more than 20 years that they've been leading the whole world. I feel like the whole economy is getting better and better. Politically speaking, it's one vision, and that vision is great. So what do you think we will see in 2040? I heard there was a master plan. For those who don't know a lot about Dubai right now, there's a master plan for 2040 in Dubai. I would never hope to see a master plan in Paris or in any other city that I've been in my life, and I've traveled a lot. So what can you tell me about this master plan we've heard so much about?
Great question. So, and I'd actually wonder if they actually do have master plans for other places, and if they did in the past, I don't know. But yeah, it's amazing that they have a master plan for 20 years in the future, and they've consistently had one since the 60s. Like when they discovered oil, and it's important for people to know the history, that I think this is their 5th or 6th master plan. So when they discovered oil, they realized what a massive opportunity they had. But they understood back then that it would run out. So they put in place plans for 20 years. And funnily enough, I think every 10 years they update it because they far surpass actually what they've been doing. So yeah, for 2040, the overarching theme is that they want to be the best city in the world, and they're going to achieve that in various different ways by, expanding the population, by doubling it. I think they want to double the GDP as well. That could be earlier by
2033.
Exactly, yes. And like creating lots more greenery in what they can do in a desert. They're also, they have massive coral reef projects to make the sea life better, and they've thought about everything that you can possibly think of to make a city the best place in the world. And I think the most important thing is attracting people, right? Because I mean, you can build roads and you can build buildings, but if you don't have highly talented, highly educated, highly motivated people to come here and do that work for you, it's not going to work. So I think that's the main thing, the culture of people moving here. I think His Highness Sheikh Mohammed has a great quote. I don't know if you know it. It's like, whether you're a gazelle or a lion in the morning, when you wake up, you better start running.
You better start running.
Yeah.
There was this American dream before that we haven't really known. We're maybe too young for that. But there was this American dream, and now everyone is talking about the Dubai dream. So it can seem fun when you're here, but when you realize there's a big brain drain happening in the UAE and in Dubai in particular. As you say, the biggest talents are all coming here. They have a way better lifestyle than they can imagine. So now people are coming to Dubai with families. They want to set up their businesses. They want to stay on the long run. Like you, for example. I don't know, when you arrived, did you think you would stay in Dubai your whole life?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, for the long term anyway. So for a minimum 5 to 10 years, 100%. So like, because the situation in Europe and around the world isn't improving anytime soon. And I think that just speaks, that's my personal situation, but that speaks to the demand change that has happened in the market. People are moving here now for the long term. Whereas in the past, people would come for 1 to 2 years, young professionals, maybe young couples, they would make their money tax-free. They'd move home to Europe and put money down for a mortgage and live the rest of their lives happily in County Meath, Ireland. But now actually families are moving here in the planes full. They're liquidating portfolios in Europe. They're closing down businesses, which is a shame for those locations, but it's a great benefit for the UAE. And people are moving here for the long term.
And we witness this every day when we're on the phone, when we talk to these people, they become our clients along the way. I have clients as well in France. They're just getting rid of everything and they're setting up their business here in Dubai after years and years and decades in France setting up everything. They just realized it's not their place.
And on a day-to-day basis, we might get numb to that fact. Because I think, a lot of people still have the mentality of Dubai is, so conservative, it's a bubble, it's not going to last. But like, we're so lucky to actually be here. And as I said, we might get numb to the fact, but every day people are saying, yeah, I'm closing down my whole business in the UK. I've like 60 apartments in the UK. I want to sell them all and move everything to Dubai. Every day people are doing it. So I think more people should know about that and benefit from it, or wait till the prices are too high.
To the young listeners who see real estate as a beautiful industry and they want to join real estate, first of all, have they missed the boat? And second of all, what's their first step if they want to become a real estate agent in this very, very crowded industry in Dubai?
Okay, firstly, absolutely not. You haven't missed the boat. I hate when people say it's saturated, the market's saturated. Saturated market means it works. It means people are making money here and there's competition. So if it's saturated and you're afraid, that means you're afraid of competition.
Exactly.
So no, as you alluded to earlier, we're in the early adopters phase of Dubai. Dubai is 20% built, which is an astonishing fact that our manager said to us, and we didn't actually believe when we first came here. But when you really start to think about it, there's plots vacant still in downtown, which is insane. Like if you go to New York and Manhattan, there's no plots available. So there's plots in downtown available, and we're going to build the entire Dubai South and double the population. How can you be still too early? So absolutely not. You can come out here, you can make a name for yourself in a few short months to a year. You can really start to build yourself a career here. And the first step is to apply for some jobs. Reach out to whoever, reach out to me, reach out to Jeremie, speak to people about the industry, recruiters, apply for some jobs and get out here. It's pretty easy.
Do you need a background in finance? Do you need to have any knowledge about how the economy works, how does real estate work, or can you just hop in?
No, absolutely not. Even if you're a hairdresser, Jeremie, you can come over here and become a real estate agent.
How does that show the credibility of the job? Because that's what we hear, right? Everybody can become a real estate agent. Now,
great question.
Most of the time you will hear that every time you meet someone in Dubai, they're a real estate agent. But how do you really have this credibility on the long term to take care of the portfolios of investors or to find the dream home for end users. It's a huge responsibility, and it's most of the time a lot of money for them. So
absolutely. No, a great question. And the barrier to entry is far too low to become like a real estate agent in Dubai. But that's just the nature of it. Like if the bar was set higher, it'd be established real estate market and there wouldn't be so much opportunity for investors to make a lot of money. It's an early city. It's a young city that's growing faster than any city has ever grown before. But people are still skeptical. So good on, and I don't even mean to knock the people who are hairdressers who come here, because good on you. You're noticing an opportunity to come out here, and if you're prepared to work hard, you can make it. But that's where the opportunity lies, is that it's young. It's like the wild, wild west. And great for me that I have a degree in economics and finance and I can stab everyone else in the back for my clients and give them proper sound advice. And I think that's what's going to make a lot of people like me and you stand out, is that we actually study the market, we study the latest investment trends, and we genuinely care about their best interests and investing in the long run, and we're not just trying to make a quick sale and never speak to them again. So yes, it can be a negative, and there are pitfalls in Dubai real estate that people lose money and things that they should avoid doing, and that's why they should work with us.
Okay. For Mr. Daragh Gilmartin, what's the biggest goal of 2025 now that we're approaching the end of 2024, which was a brilliant year for you? What's 2025 looking like?
So I know everyone wants to speak and know numbers, which I have a goal for, but like generally speaking, it's not something I really care about. Like it's, as I said to you earlier, I'm going to work as hard as possible for the next 12 months on making phone calls, going out and doing networking, building my social media branding, and whatever results come from working as hard as possible, I will reap my reward. So I know everyone wants a number. I will hope to minimum put 2 million dirhams on the board, which would be take home 1 million dirhams, take home 250,000 euro. I think it's very doable. In fact, my manager would probably say it's too low. We're gonna have to speak. Yeah, I know. So that's my goal. And then from that, every step of your life, you should have a goal for, I think. So it's not just about real estate and money. It's about relationships. It's about your friends. It's about your family and your closer relationships. It's about your fitness, your mental health, your well-being, your spirituality. I think everyone should have goals for all of those sectors and have not just goals, a business plan and a game plan to achieve all of those. So I do have them all set up and coming to the end of the year now, finalizing everything.
Okay. Look, one thing that I really want to see on this podcast now and for all the others that we'll do, I personally cannot stand hearing the stories of people who make it look like everything went very smoothly and that they were super lucky and everything turned out perfectly. Obviously, the truth behind success is that there's a lot of moments when you're feeling lonely. There's a lot of moments when you feel like you've made mistakes and you feel like you don't have the support. And what do you think, have you had a moment in your career, even if it's a young career, have you had a moment when you thought, I might quit, or maybe I'm not made for that, I'm not cut for this? Has there been a moment when you self-doubted?
Absolutely. I think if you say you're not ever going to doubt yourself, you're completely incorrect. So those thoughts do come into my mind quite frequently, but I've trained my mind to shut them down. So I'm not trying to act like I'm perfect. Of course, like on a weekly basis, I would like maybe even every 2 days, you're going to doubt yourself. You will start to make phone calls for an hour and you might get a full hour of no's, hang-ups in your face, telling you to fuck off and all this. Like it can like be really draining on you. Absolutely. And especially if you're out on the floor making phone calls and you're hearing other people and they can hear you fuck up on the phone and you stutter or something, man, it can really drain on you, 100%. And that's why you get so much rewards at the end of it, is because it's so difficult, emotionally, mentally draining. this job is not for everyone by any stretch of the imagination. It's super, super difficult. It takes a lot of mental strength. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, I just have the mindset of just don't quit. Even if you're like shit, even if you're getting punched in the face. And that, going back to the boxing, in one of my boxing fights, I had like one of the scariest moments of my life was in the boxing fight in the second round, when I was just getting pieced up. Like I thought I was going to get knocked out. And part of me, which scares me the most, is like kind of how fragile my mindset got in that moment. Part of me just wanted to drop to my knees so the beating would stop. But I just, for an extra 5 seconds, I was able to just shut my mind up and just keep moving around. Even though it's ugly as fuck, just stay in there. Show up to work and have the worst day of work of your life, but just keep at it. I think a lot of people say that, and we go back to this, all these successful people just say, if you just don't quit and you can just show up for 5 years, even if you're terrible for 2 of those years, I mean, you've just put in so many repetitions. So
you can outperform 90% of the market just by showing up every day.
Yeah. If you're just an idiot and you actually just show up every day and put in repetitions, you just stay at it for long enough. I mean, ideally, you want to improve and get better, and you will. But I think that's probably one of the most important things, and you speak about it a lot, is just consistency and keeping at it, 100%. But yeah, you're not weird or strange if you have doubts and negative thoughts, thinking you're not good enough. Everyone has those. And then this goes back to what we said earlier with failure. You can either cower up and be afraid, or you can train yourself to think differently. I literally have my brain at a state now that when these thoughts pop up, I don't have a million thoughts per day. Like, my brain isn't scrambled by like a lot of people's are. When something pops up and I doubt myself, I'll just tell myself, I'm not believing that. I'm not believing it. If I doubt myself, like, I'm going to quit, I'm not good enough, I'm depressed at the moment, shit's not going right, I'll just say, okay, I'm actually just having a bad day. I'm not believing that. Like, I'm not going to trust myself. Let me, maybe some people go out on the weekends and drink too much, which happens in Dubai. There's a lot of parties going on. Let me go 2 months sober. Let me go to the gym every day. Let me surround myself with happy people and get my work done. Am I still going to fucking doubt myself then? Probably not. So don't listen to your self-limiting thoughts when you're actually in a negative position. Just disregard them. And I know it's difficult, and I'm not saying I'm perfect. When you're on a podcast and you speak like this, you sound like you're the perfect human being. Like, no, this is ideally what I do every time, and I try to do it to my best. So that's what I would say, is ignore those negative thoughts as best you can. Understand the underlying, where they're coming from, work to get better, and back to the beginning, surround yourself with the right people. I think it's very important.
Yeah, that's very inspiring. That's one of the reasons why I think we clicked very early on. I really admire people like you that have this kind of mindset. Once again, it requires a lot of courage just to say these things to yourself when you're on your own. The easiest thing to do is to quit, or is to let yourself go. The problem is it's a temporary relief, and then you will pay the consequences later. So to have that wisdom, for me, it's wisdom to understand that if you suffer now, and if you keep consistently, if you keep the consistency even when it's really, really tough, then the rewards will be unbelievably better. And I think that's the reason why most people are not successful. You don't walk down the street and see everybody jacked, right? The reason why most people are not healthy as well is a lack of consistency. They don't have goals, they're not consistent in them going to the gym, them eating healthy, but it's fuel. I can talk as well in my own example is I let myself go very, very quickly on the diet and on the sport for a full year. I neglected that aspect of my life, and now that I have to go back to it, it's back from scratch, back from zero. So that consistency is the key. It's one of the key elements to success. So it's really admirable to see someone like you that has this mindset, and you're 26 years old. It's not like you're 55 and you've seen it all and you understand how life works. You are a driven person that I think will reach really, really I don't even know where you're going to go, man, but I know that you're going to be absolutely super successful, and you're one of the persons that I want to keep in my circle, because you have to surround yourself with the right people, and I think you're one of them as well. You're very inspiring to people, and I think there's a lot of people that are watching this podcast that you should follow what Daragh is doing on his own channel, on Instagram, YouTube, on TikTok as well. Are you on another?
I'm everywhere.
You're everywhere.
I'm trying to be everywhere.
This man is everywhere. Follow Daragh. He's a very inspiring guy. Not a robot, I promise you. I try to see he's
an actual real life human being.
He's a real life being, yes. Daragh, I think that's a wrap. Just what we're going to do, and that's because I'm a fan of Stephen Bartlett in Diary of a CEO. I'm going to ask you to just write a question for the next guest. You're not going to know which next guest is, but he's going to read that question and we'll have to answer it at the end of the podcast. I think that's a brilliant idea. Thanks, Stephen Bartlett. And yeah, I think that's a wrap. Daragh, thank you so much for your time. I hope I will see you again on this podcast.
Absolutely.
And that was fantastic. Thank you.
For sure.
Boom.
Good stuff, bro.